I think now is a good time to do a big picture review of everything we've learned so far. We'll start with position. We use the symbol X for position, and what are our units? Meters. We can take the position and take a derivative with respect to time and get velocity. Our units for velocity are meters per second. So velocity is the time rate of change of position. It's the slope of the position versus time curve. And we can keep going. As we move across to the right, we'll take derivatives. We can take the derivative of the velocity and we get acceleration. But not only is it the time rate of change of velocity, it's the second derivative of position. And our units for acceleration, meters per second, or meters per second squared. Now let's try multiplying by mass and see what we get. Well, position times mass doesn't really mean anything to us at this stage. Velocity times mass, though, has a special meaning to us. And mass times velocity is momentum. And our units for momentum are kilograms, meters per second for velocity, kilogram meter per second, and for some reason we never get tired of writing that, and we keep that as the unit for momentum. And if we multiply acceleration by mass, we get ma. Well, that also has a special meaning to us. Force is mass times acceleration. And our units would be kilograms, meters per second squared for acceleration. And I said in the past, we always get tired of writing that, so we write a Newton instead. We name that unit after Isaac Newton. Now, something interesting here. In going from velocity to acceleration, I took a time derivative. I multiply velocity by m to get momentum. I've multiplied acceleration by m to get force. So, do you think I can go this way by taking a time derivative? Let's see. Maybe I drew my circle around force too early. Maybe I have to add something to this. Force is also equal to the time derivative of momentum. And of course, those would be vectors. Actually, we call this F equals ma. We call that Newton's second law. Newton wrote it like this. Force is dp dt. But for our purposes, they're pretty similar. The difference is that in our case, we assume mass is constant when we write it like this. When you write it like this, the mass actually does not have to be constant. It might change in time. Like when a rocket blasts off, it burns some of its mass. It burns the fuel, and its mass changes in time. Now let's take a look at energy. We know that kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared. What are our units for kinetic energy? That would be a kilogram meter per second squared, kilogram meter squared per second squared. And we've said we get tired of writing that all the time, so we use a capital J for joule. There's our kinetic energy. We know there's a velocity term in our kinetic energy formula. So it's linked to velocity. But we also know we have energy terms that are linked to position. Those are our potential energy terms, where the gravitational potential energy is mgh. H is linked to position. And our spring potential energy, 1/2 k, where k is the spring constant, times x squared. So again, we're linked to position, how much that spring is stretched or compressed. We can quickly check our units. For gravitational potential energy, we have kilograms. For g's acceleration, meters per second squared, we're multiplying by the height, which is meters. We get kilogram meters squared per second squared. And we said that a kilogram meter squared per second squared is a joule. So potential energy has units of joules also. And we can check our units for spring potential energy. K is units of newtons per meter. X is units of meters. So we end up here with a Newton meter. And a Newton is a kilogram meter per second squared times a meter gives us a joule. So we've got units of joules here, units of joules here, and units of joules for kinetic energy. Well, what did we do? With momentum, we took a time derivative, we got force. With velocity, we took a time derivative, we got acceleration. So what happens if we take a time derivative of energy? We get power. And power tells us how quickly we can do work. If we want to drive a car up a hill, we could drive up that hill with a small, weak engine in our car if the gearing was right, but it would take a long time to get up there. The car does a certain amount of work, but it takes a long time. Or we can put a big, strong engine in the car and drive up the hill fairly quickly. So the amount of work done in a given amount of time is the power, the time rate of change of energy. And units for power are going to be joules per second. If we write the joule as the kilogram meter squared per second squared and we divide by seconds, we get seconds cubed. So kilogram meter squared per seconds cubed, or a joule per second. And we get tired of writing all of that. What do we call this? The watt. W-A-T-T. Watts are our units for power. And then earlier we had said our units for energy are kilogram meters squared per second squared, but that's the same as a kilogram meter per second squared times a meter, which is the same as a Newton through a meter. When you apply a force of a Newton through a distance of a meter, we get units of energy, which is a joule. So I'm going to add one more item here, work, which is force through a distance. That's if we have a constant force. And our units are going to be joules, Newton meters, or joules. A couple of points I want to make. We have momentum with a lowercase p, power with a capital P. Luckily, my handwriting is so clear it's obvious from the way I write it. We have kinetic energy with a capital K and a spring constant with a lowercase k. We have work with a W, and watts, our unit for power, with a W. Those are the same. Anything else that's confusing here? I think that covers it. you have to know from the context what the symbol is. So that's what we've done this quarter. I hope this little summary helps.